Should Manchester United sack Erik ten Hag? It's absolutely abysmal where Man United are. And there's still 4 games left in the season for Manchester United, including an FA Cup final, a repeat of last season's FA Cup final where Man United essentially handed Man City the treble. So in this video, we're going to break down where it went wrong on the pitch for Man United against Crystal Palace. And at the end of the video, where Man United should lead Erik ten Hag. Is it into the office for 4 more games? Or is it onto LinkedIn search for a brand new job? You have to let me know in the comments down below. Let's just start with an overview of Man United arriving at Crystal Palace. Now, some of the results of the last few weeks went right under the radar. Maybe because we're focusing on Arsenal and Man City at the top of the title race. Maybe we're focusing on Spurs and Aston Villa in the top 4 race and Liverpool's fall off. Man United went right under the radar. And those results, especially the one against Burnley, the way Burnley were able to get on the ball, knock it around. I know they gave the ball away for Anthony to score a decent little goal, but Burnley were running the game at points, and Burnley were more physical than Man United, and they had more belief. This is Burnley. A few weeks ago, yeah, I know their form's turned around. This is one of the worst sides that the Premier League's ever seen. Similarly to Sheffield United. I know it's a positive result for Man United, but the way Sheffield United sort of clung on to the game and kind of affected Man United and made it a hard game, I really thought these Man United players are really turning on Erik ten Hag. They don't believe in the system. I don't think they believe in what he's saying in the changing room. And the crucial thing, it's a bit like a political rebellion. Once there's no actual belief in the manager, it's not even about can these guys operate what he wants tactically. It's not even about do they believe tactically in what he's trying to get them to do, which we can question in this video. We'll do that in a minute. I actually think they don't believe him now as a person. I really don't think they listen to what he's saying. I think they've down tools. And Roy Keane came out years ago and said how, you know, a leopard never changes its spots, and they'll always kind of roll over and try and get the manager fired before trying to put on a good performance for Man United, play for the shirt of Manchester United. And I think there is certainly part of that. But there's also fundamental structural issues with what Erik ten Hag is doing wrong at Manchester United, particularly in Crystal Palace last night. It was embarrassing, and I think he's run out of ideas. I think Oliver Glasner's got more traction in the Premier League in the last few weeks. We've seen more of a turnaround. We've seen more of an identity from Crystal Palace, with all due respect, than Manchester United, who spent £1 billion in the last 7 years. Not all of that is Erik ten Hag's money, but at least, 400 million, 500 million of it is. He has been backed, and a lot of those players were in the starting 11. Look at Casemiro. Look at Anthony. Look at, Garnacho's obviously come through, so that's not an expensive signing, but Mason Mount, Rasmus Højlund. It's absolutely embarrassing. This season, they've lost more games than Man City have in the last 2 years. It's absolutely crazy. 13 losses at this stage in the season. -3 goal difference. That alludes to more than just an ownership issue. That alludes to more than just the philosophy's not as good as Liverpool's with Jurgen Klopp or Guardiola at Man City. It alludes to the 11 players that are putting out results this season. Doesn't matter if Lisandro Martinez is injured. The 11 that played against Crystal Palace should absolutely be getting a better result. Maybe it's just a draw. Maybe it's a 0-0. Palace have beaten Liverpool early this season. They've been absolutely fantastic, Palace, at points in the last few weeks since Roy Hodgson left. But we have to have a real discussion that the starting 11 that played against Crystal Palace is not being put out in the right way from the manager. It's not about Sir Jim Ratcliffe. It's not about the Glazers at this point on this video. We have to talk about the 11 that started. The amount of space in midfield, he got it completely wrong. I don't think you can play the likes of Mason Mount, Eriksen, Casemiro all together. I really don't. I know Bruno Fernandes was missing. He's probably been their best player this season for some people. Essentially, the players that kind of do their work. I'm looking at the structure of the side, the structure of the middle of the park for Man United. The structure is they got a keeper who flaps at everything. They got Johnny Evans who does his job, but this guy, he turns slower than Titanic. He's not built to be playing Man United Premier League games. He's not. He's meant to be coming on for 5 minutes here and there to shore things up. So on that level, it's just Johnny Evans that does his job to a decent level. Onana, for me, doesn't. He pulled off a couple of good saves against Palace. It could have been 5 or 6. Let's be completely real. Then you got Kobbie Mainoo, who does his job well. He got completely overrun by Adam Wharton. Has to be going to the Euros for me, Adam Wharton. We'll talk about that later. Will Hughes as well looked like prime Kaka in the game. It was absolutely ridiculous. Those two were able to outrun Kobbie Mainoo, who didn't have a good game because of the managerial decision to play Christian Eriksen. Why is he still persistent with Eriksen? I know there's a load of kids on the bench. I don't know enough about Man United in terms of how they could have structured it without Christian Eriksen. I know he's a senior pro. He's a seasoned professional. He's played a lot of football matches at the highest level. We talk about Casemiro's legs. We'll talk about that in a minute. Eriksen's lost his legs. The way he was chasing back for some of the goals for Palace, it was embarrassing. He's such a floater. He floats through games. He's delicate. He's a little bit brittle. And he's not the power that you need in midfield. He's not the oomph. He's not the desire. He doesn't desire to play for Man United. He doesn't desire the shirt. And you need at least, not everyone does, because you're going to sign players from Argentina or Spain or Italy, wherever you sign players from these days. Obviously, there's a lot of foreign players that come in and you have to kind of create a culture. But you need 4, 5, 6 players that want to bleed for the shirt. Erling Haaland is one of them. I think De Bruyne, John Stones, Phil Foden is 4 or 5. Even Edison, who spent a long time of his life in Manchester raising a family, building a family. A lot of these players, Christian Eriksen comes in on a short-term deal. We don't know what's going to happen with him. Amrabat, as an example, comes in on a short-term deal. Not sure what's going to happen with him. So it's interesting that Man United, on a philosophical level, we can talk about the tactics and whether 4-2-3-1 is right or 4-3-3 or whatever's going wrong tactically for Ten Hag. There's just not enough players that play for Man United that actually want to be there. I think that's pretty simple. We have to kind of just talk about Casemiro, because I'm a football fan. I sit there and I think, if I'm chatting to my mates in the pub, I think we have a debate about players that fell off. The quickest position in football, it's an easy debate you can have with your mates in the pub. The quickest position of a footballer that falls off is the defensive midfielder position. It always has been. Once your legs go, in terms of tracking back, the fall off is absolutely ridiculously quick, in my opinion. And maybe that's harsh, but that's just how it goes. I think strikers can look at someone like Teddy Sheringham, can be a little bit slower and link up play. Michael Owen was still doing bits for Man United here and there, and well, let's not talk about Stoke. Fullbacks these days can get up and down the park. Look at Ashley Young at Everton. Keepers can stay around for a long time, no question. But defensive midfielders, look at Fabinho, how quickly he fell off. Look at N'Golo Kante, how quickly he fell off. And he's probably the best defensive midfielder in the history of football for me. Certainly prime Kante. So Man United signed Casemiro knowing that he's on the decline. Maybe he had a couple of, his first season he was good, of course. And it's not about just signing Casemiro, because I think you could sign Casemiro, then you could sign legs around him and kind of rotate and have Kobbie Mainoo come through. That was a bit of a gamble. No one at Man United knew how good Kobbie Mainoo was going to be. He's come through and been fantastic. But you have Eriksen and Casemiro sitting around and doing nothing and having no legs and basically waiting for the next pay jump to move to the next club. It's absolutely shocking. So on that level, is that Erik ten Hag's fault? I'm not sure. But trusting both of them in a game like against Crystal Palace, who've got so much energy, they're so intense, they've got so much youth and vibrancy. Eze, Elise, Matete, unbelievable how they've managed to form more of a connection, more of a kind of partnership than anything we've seen from Man United this season. That has to go back to the manager. No one's dribbled past a player more than Casemiro's dribble pass in the game at Crystal Palace. That says it all. A lack of belief, a lack of desire, and a lack of understanding of even how to set up a game not to get smashed in that way. I think a lot of people saw that coming. A lot of people saw that Man United were going to get got at, and that's where it leads to the conclusion of this video. There are a few signs of optimism at Manchester United. And I think those signs of optimism are really, really good signs. What I'm trying to say is Højlund down the middle, I think, is a very, very exciting striker for the future. Could be for the next 10 years. He's so young at the club. Some of the backroom deals, the executive from City, Dan Ashworth coming in. You think about Wilcox coming in from Southampton, former Man City executive as well, worked with the academy, very, very highly rated. You think about Garnacho, who has been probably the best player this season alongside Bruno Fernandes, who's been absolutely exquisite. So there are some, and obviously Kobbie Mainoo, who I think has to go to the Euros alongside Wharton. That's how good Wharton is. So the signs at Man United are fantastic. You can build around. You can have issues in your side. You can have issues philosophically. You can have issues with your ownership. and still get someone like Højlund, who I think eventually will be scoring 25 goals in the Premier League every single season. In my opinion, he's got the capability at least to do that. You can build around that. And someone like Garnacho, who's got a world-class ability about him, so with Kobbie Mainoo. The signs for optimism at Man United are huge, because you can win league titles with a banging form striker. You can win league titles with a banging form DM. Look at Leicester City. And if you can get a few transfers in, then Man United aren't a million miles away if they get it right. And that is the big question mark. Should they keep Erik ten Hag now? Or should they sack him now? For me, you have to sack him now. You have to sack him now. If there was no FA Cup final, I think you just ease through. You write it off. You just say it never quite works. Fair enough. But because the FA Cup final is looming, because they have someone there who's got a lot of success with Man United as an assistant coach to Sir Alex Ferguson, sitting right there in Steve McClaren. Bit of a laughing stock. I know a bit of a Wally with a brolly. I get that. But I see him sat on the bench, and I see Man United's 4 games where they could end the season getting smashed in the last 4 games, including giving Man City back-to-back wins against Man United in FA Cup finals. How shocking is that? That is the kind of stuff that your grandkids will be talking about when they raise their kids. That's just how ridiculous it is to give Man City a treble. And the way Man United capitulated in that game. I know it was close last season. People talk about the penalty and the scoreline. It was closer than maybe the early goal from Ilkay Gundogan would suggest. But the way Man United capitulated. I watched an FA Cup final as a fan for the first time since City had been there since 2019. Obviously, Wigan was just before that. And obviously the win for Man City against Stoke City. I've never been so confident in all of those games. I was more nervous against Stoke City, against Wigan, and against Watford. Honest to God, I was more calm. I was more present. I was more enjoying the football, because I knew Man United were never, ever going to win that game. And I think you've got a chance. If you're a Man United fan watching this, you have to let me know what you think in the comments down below. You sack Ten Hag, there's a bit of a boost, and you give the new manager some sort of platform. And you tell the players, I know getting rid of the manager doesn't solve everything, but you give the players the opportunity to see that if the standards are not set with Ineos, with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, then you go. And you're not going to have a juicy contract. You're not going to be given the opportunity. Despite the fact that, yes, that lays the gauntlet down for players to maybe, not work hard for the manager and not persist. I think you have to send a real message that ahead of an FA Cup final coming up in a few weeks, we do not lose 4-0 away at home to Crystal Palace. It just can't happen. It just really cannot happen. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks very much for watching. Very interested to see what you think in the comments down below. I think Erik ten Hag has to go right now. I think you have to sack him and just cut your losses, because if he affects another FA Cup final where Man United get smashed again and the games and finish, what if they finish below West Ham? West Ham United, 75 goals they've faced and conceded. West Ham United. Man United got -3 goal difference. It's embarrassing. So let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you very, very soon.